Welcome back to the Men's Talk Show. This is Duran. We got another episode. We have Michael Gills today with us. He is a psychotherapist, and we're going to be talking about how can men better process their emotions. So tell us a little bit about you, Michael, here.
Well, yes, my name is Michael Giles, and I'm sorry to interrupt the continuity, but I should have clarified that before we started that my last name is pronounced Giles.
Okay.
So yeah, my name is Michael Giles. I'm a psychotherapist. I work in the Austin, Texas area, in Cedar Park, one of the suburbs to the north. I work mostly with men who struggle with anxiety or histories of trauma, or difficulties in their relationships. I'm also a part-time behavioral health officer in the Texas Army National Guard, and I also like to write. There's a book out there for men who want to improve their relationships, and I'm most excited about my blog. You know, it's not for any other reason other than I want to get my ideas out there as they're unfolding. I want to voice those. That's a lot of fun.
When you said a book, your own book?
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of it? So we can add it up there.
Yeah. The name of the book is Relationship Repair for Men, Counterintuitive Solutions for, let me Google it. I'm sorry.
And we'll put the link in the description so you don't have to worry about it.
Yes. You know, the last time I interviewed about it, I also forgot the exact title. So maybe that could be my thing. Relationship Repair for Men. Yes. So the book is Relationship Repair for Men, Counterintuitive Behaviors that Restore Love to Struggling Relationships.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what psychotherapists, like, what do you do? What type of methods you do to, help your patients a little bit before we get into the topic today?
Sure. So my method really involves three overall approaches. First, I want to help clients to be able to, to feel confident with tools they can use to deal with difficult thoughts and feelings and situations as they arise in their everyday life. Then the second is to do therapeutic things in our sessions so that even without these tools, even without having to do the work, they are finding themselves feeling calmer, more at peace, more flexible and resourceful when these thoughts, feelings, or situations arise. And the third is I provide some coaching on how they can interact with the world in ways that are going to help them to feel more resourceful, to feel a little bit more comfortably bold in their life instead of anxious or angry or explosive.
Yeah, so that's great. And what are some of the challenges that you see when men come see you?
So one of my favorite is there are men who struggle to identify emotions, and that can pose a challenge. That can pose disadvantage.
Yeah, we did last season. We actually did an episode on this where we had a emotion wheel. We showed up on our screen where the average man may know about maybe 10 emotions, right? Anger, sadness, happiness, frustrated, and depressed, and maybe joy. But then there's so many other emotions that men don't even know about and know how to express them or how to directly describe what they're feeling. So please continue on.
Yes, I agree with you fully, and I think having a having more of a vocabulary for that is very helpful. On the other side, I think another thing that's helpful with that is recognizing that sometimes there's a little bit of anxious perfectionism going into that. Sometimes men are not sure, am I feeling angry? Am I feeling afraid? I'm feeling something, and I don't know if it's anger or if it's fear. It could be sadness right now. And one solution I like to this is to encourage men to be patient with themselves, enough to give an imprecise answer, because a lot of times our feelings are flowing from one into another, or a lot of times we could be feeling more than one feeling. We could be feeling a combination of feelings.
I think that's great right there. And I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was thinking about right there. If something didn't go right, that, you planned on getting this job and then you bombed the interview, maybe you feel frustration, but also disappointment at the same time, and then feeling like you are not a complete person because you didn't accomplish your goal. So there's multiple feelings there, but you don't know how to express all of it. And you're just like, oh, I'm just angry that I didn't get it, but you're not really angry. Mm-hmm. And then you may take that you thought your anger and let your physical, go play out your actions with that false emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like the scenario that you used here, because sometimes it seems like when men are asked what they're feeling, sometimes it seems like they might, it seems as if they're on the spot, as if they feel like they're being interviewed, and that there might be a negative consequence for getting the answer wrong. And something that's really cool about feelings is you absolutely do not have to get the answer perfect at all. You're not going to fail therapy if you're actually feeling more anger, but you're thinking it's fear, and you're not sure, and you give an imprecise answer. It still works. It still works for the therapeutic process, and you're still probably right. But the belief that we're probably wrong, or the fear of getting it wrong, seems like one of the main obstacles to action.
Let me ask you this question, Michael. Why do you think men have a hard time of expressing their emotions? Like, what, besides societal expectations of men to be strong and to show up powerfully, what other factors do you think contribute to why men can't express their emotions well?
Well, I think that the factors that you mentioned, the expectation to be strong, I think that those already explain a lot of it. And like I think the expectation to be strong, or the expectation to function, the expectation to suck it up, is very pervasive in our society.
And I think too, if we go back to the example that I used about you failed the job interview, you bombed the job interview, didn't get it, and then you talked about being angry or whatever, but then there's also a fear, right? There's this fear that how are you going to pay your bills? You didn't get the job, but you're not thinking clearly, and you're like, well, I have to do this, but you're not thinking, okay, what's the next step? What can I do? You're so caught up in how you feel at the moment, but you're not taking on all the emotions that you feel. And then too, with the societies, right, you can't show that. You have to have that stoic face, like, it's whatever, it's all good, but really it's not.
Yes. And this belief, I believe that the belief that men must be stoic, and not really stoicism in the classical sense, but stoic in the sort of the modern vernacular, which means just not showing the feelings, functioning regardless of how we're feeling. I believe that this belief is so pervasive that even a lot of people who are advocating against it, even a lot of people who are criticizing men for not being able to express their feelings, still probably in other situations are really expecting men to just function and make it work, regardless of how you feel, because you've got responsibility. We must provide, or we must lead. It is not. It is an overarching belief in our society that I think soaks in everywhere, and I believe that there are, many ways in which it results in unfair situations for men, and difficulty really experiencing a rich life. But I also believe there's a positive side to it. And I don't believe that the solution is less expectation on men to function. I believe the solution is more support in recognizing that the feelings are valid and that there's nothing not manly about having them.
And I want to say something there, like, yes, you have emotions, and everybody has emotions. And you still have to provide, you still have to do these things, even though you didn't get, I'm gonna keep sticking with that same analogy so people can follow the path. But so you didn't get the job, but you still have things to do. You still have to provide. If you have a family, you still have to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And it may get to a point, let's say somebody has a family and they didn't get what they want, and they feel like there's no way out, the bills are piling up. And that's where you get so many men who feel like there's no outlet except to unalive themselves. And that's the extreme for a temporary problem that you can overcome if you understand your emotions, talk to people like yourself, or just even listening to these shows can help you realize that you're not by yourself and you can get through it.
Absolutely right. So much of what you just said, so many very important ingredients to it. I mean, the sharing our emotions, to be actually to describe our fears, especially to another man, and to then not be rejected by that man, right? Then wow, then I'm really not alone. I still have this responsibility. I still have this, these obstacles, but I'm not, there's not something inherently wrong with me for having this experience. And then when we can own our emotional experience in these situations, like when there's crisis, I do not know how to get past this obstacle. When we can own our emotions, then our emotions can actually empower us. They can actually help us get more in touch with what matters to us, to our core motivational strength. They can help us to relate better with other people. They can help us, to make it across the finish line.
Yeah, I think we should never hold our emotions in, because when you hold all your emotions in, we talked about this last season on the talk show, it comes out in other ways, and you don't want to go off erratically, just because you couldn't process your emotions at that point in time. But then again, no one's perfect. I had to really learn to process my emotions, because I was, always angry, when I was younger, because things didn't go my way. But then as you get older and you talk to other people and, you build friendships, you say, you're not alone in this. And when you talk to other people, they might be able to provide you with resources that you didn't even know about.
Yeah.
instead of just being angry with the world and thinking no one cares. You know?
I think that's so perfect, and I want to tie that into my own personal life. So, um, I just retired from the Navy after 20 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, thank
Oh.
you. And because I also want to get back to what you do in the Army as well, in just a second. So, I just retired from the Navy after 20 years, and I had this perception in my head that I was going to go get a job in tech, making a tons of money, because that's where all the money is at, in tech.
Right.
And putting in applications and things like that, and listening to people. This is how you do your job resume. And long story short, I didn't get the calls that I thought I was going to get.
Yeah.
And the feelings that I felt was array of different feelings, like anger, like why are they not reaching back to me, because I know I'm a great fit. And then also like sadness, like okay, like I don't want to tell people that I'm not getting these interviews because now I'll feel less of myself. And then this fear is like, how am I going to pay the bills when I don't have this high paying job that I thought I was going to get? And being able to process all of that and talk about it. And then once I realized what's going on, being able to ask for help, like Ron was just talking about, and being vulnerable, helped me lead to reaching out to other veterans who just retired, to the job I actually just got. You know, by being able to process my emotions, act accordingly, and being vulnerable to ask for help, helped me get a job, which will sustain my lifestyle.
Yes, and that is that is a really great example of what therapy can do. So, sometimes the first one of the first indicators of therapy working is that we are conscious of how we are responding differently to certain situations. Another thing that can happen with therapy is that actually the world ends up appearing quite different. And it could sometimes seem like, okay, before therapy, the world was a place that constantly rejected me. But then as I was engaging in that process, it seemed like the world took a turn to provide more opportunities for me. And I think it's just really amazing how dealing with our emotions can help us to really change some of the limiting beliefs that we have about the world. And these limiting beliefs are going to translate into subtle ways in which we perceive the world differently and subtle ways in which we behave in the world differently. Whereas
I think that's so true. Yeah. Limiting beliefs is the one thing. You feel like I can't reach a certain threshold because I'm only can go here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Duran.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, so what is, like, you have, how many clients do you normally work with on a weekly basis? Like, have they had any success stories? Do they find their methods, good to work with? Or do you feel like there's still some hesitancy of men opening up to you?
Well, yes. So for your first question, usually I see about 25 clients in a week, and I have also a handful of clients that I don't see every week. So probably right now I have about 30 active clients. And in terms of men who hesitate to open up to me, I think in a way therapists deal with a skewed sample size, because therapists are usually dealing with clients who have already become somewhat open to the idea of therapy. Like a man who is absolutely not open to therapy is not going to call me. His wife might call me. Might call me, and depending on my mood, I might tell her, okay, I'm happy to set up an initial consultation with you on the phone, but the initial consultation is only going to be between me and him.
Mhm.
Or I might tell her, actually, I'm going to need him to call me. There are mental health professionals who will work with, like court mandated clients, or in other settings where there might be men who are a lot more closed off for therapy than the men who come to me. So for the most part, the men who come to me have already accomplished something pretty significant, which is
Now
to
let's now I want to ask that question when you talk about that. From civilian world to military world,
Mm.
how is the process of breaking those barriers of people come in? Because I've seen it in the military where you have people who's like can't regulate their emotions or things like that, and we refer them to a mental health professional. Is it more so like that in the military, or is
Mm.
it inverse?
Yes. So in my role in the National Guard, and most of my time as a behavioral health officer in the National Guard has just been on the part-time basis, just the weekends. I was for about 4 months full-time on the border mission. Most of my clinical interactions in the military have been voluntary, which is wonderful, because things have to get kind of bad for it to be involuntary. And when somebody is voluntarily looking for support, a brief sounding board, or some help finding, a longer term therapy situation. Yeah, no, I'm usually not dealing with people who are too closed off. But then even in some of the situations where soldiers are thinking they need to speak with the behavioral health officer, and if they don't, then that might be a threat to their career. They're still motivated. They're motivated because they want things to work out with their military service. So I've not experienced many cases working in the military where there was a significant amount of resistance. I think, and also I think that also represents how our society is becoming a lot more open to mental health support.
Oh, absolutely. And I've definitely seen that throughout my 20 years. When it first came in, back in 2004, if somebody was going to see a mental health therapist, it was like, man, like this person's crazy. There's something wrong with them, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
it made me butt of jokes, unfortunately, because that's how men kind of deal with each other. We kind of get on each other a bit, but still, like, and that would make people more hesitant to go seek or even talk about, hey, I'm going to go see a therapist. It was like, be quiet about it. But now, the way society's changed in the last 20 years, men can be more open about, hey, I can't meet up with you guys. I got a mental health appointment and things like that. And
Yes.
especially in the veterans group, as I did my transition, so many veterans told me, make sure you go speak to behavior health and mental health before you separate, to talk about the things that you've seen throughout your military career. And so that is a big change that I'm really glad is happening.
Yeah, it is quite positive. I can remember it. I saw a therapist briefly when I was in college. This isn't the therapist that I saw most of my teenage years, but I remember I was in a martial arts group, and I had to leave early. And I remember even just telling the instructor that I had an appointment, and we were a small, close-knit group, and he could tell that I was being a little closed off about it. Man, if this were now, I would have no hesitation to say, yeah, I'm gonna go meet with my therapist.
Yeah, and we're so glad that things are changing like that. It's because of the work that people in your profession do, and also so many different platforms are out there speaking about it now, making it known that women, but also men, have an avenue to express themselves, process emotions, and that's kind of what we want to get at now, is understanding what your emotions is, like we talked about in the beginning, process it, and then decide properly how to express those emotions and move on.
Very, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to, before we go into the next one, I want to say, Michael, how did you know you wanted to be a psychotherapist? Like, what made you want to go to be that specific therapist out of any others, out of all the other therapy? What made you want to be that specific with that?
Oh, what made me want to be
A psychotherapist? Like,
a psychotherapist?
what made you want to be that specific therapist instead of another type of?
Yes. Yeah. So, right. So I, and this also probably speaks to why I ended up a psychotherapist for men, who advocates for men, giving their thoughts and feelings, giving not as much the thoughts, but their wants and their feelings, a strong but peaceful voice. Is, yeah, no, I grew up. I grew up in a household that was very very emotionally chaotic. Especially after my parents divorced when I was 11 or 12. And I didn't have a compass. I did not trust my parents to show me a way towards feeling better, about myself. Yeah, no. So that might have been why, like, when I first saw my mom's psychology 101 textbooks, maybe when I was like maybe 11 or 12. My mother was taking a psychology class for I think for nursing school, and I opened it up and I devoured it. I was amazed. Especially I was especially amazed by the concept of unconscious minds and defense mechanisms. Like people, like so much behavior that we don't normally understand. Why is this person behaving this way? Is actually an effort to protect our conscious experience from a lot of our internal, internal feelings or other dynamics. And that was fascinating to me, just to think, wow, we actually, there's a whole lot of depth. We're not just a bunch of chaotic, random human beings that we see on the surface, but there's actually a whole lot within us, and not,
And for the most part, there's reasoning why we do things. I say, for me too, I'll let you finish. I was gonna say Psychology 101. When I took that in college, oh my gosh, that was one of the best classes I remember, because like you said, it really dives deep into our being, of why we do certain things. It's all about the behavior of why we act the way we act. And I really think they should teach that class like in high school. To help, because my daughter is a freshman in high school right now, understanding the emotions of dealing with society in that type of environment, and why people act certain way. And there's always outliers, there's always people who are just off the path, right? But for the most part, everybody was within the bell curve, right? You got 10% over here, 10% over here, and then 80% of people were in the bell curve. So go ahead and continue.
Okay. Well, yes. so I started studying karate when I was 13. And it took me a couple of years to get into it, but but realizing that that karate was a thing that I could actually do to actually find some emotional relief was really inspiring. And I remember feeling called around then to be somebody who facilitates that for others. And then, through karate, I found Zen meditation, very amazed. There are things we can do to actually feel better and actually function better. In a way in which we're really feeling whole. We're really, it's not feeling better like sugar or THC can make us, feel better, but feeling better as in actually, feeling good about ourselves, actually feeling good about the world, feeling confident about what we can experience, a good kind of power. Then, things, there's more chaos at home. So when I was 15 years old, I think it was, I started seeing a therapist. And this was an amazing experience. He would ask me how I feel, and I would give a lot of, at first he would ask me how I feel, and he would just be there, sometimes silent, sometimes smiling at me. And I would give a lot of the kind of answers that, that new clients would give to me at first, like, well, I feel like this and this and this is happening. And, like, well, feeling, that's kind of a thought, feeling though, the emotions, the emotions are like sad or happy or angry or afraid. And he taught me to really zero in, to really hone in on the way that I might have been experiencing my feelings as sensations in my body, which is just a wonderful meditation. It's a wonderful tool for emotional relief. Is if you can find the feeling, the sensation in your body that goes with the emotion. If you can experience the emotion that way, then you're not necessarily worrying. You're not necessarily feeling any impulse to act out anger. It is just you in the moment with what's going on with you. I remember so much of my teenage years feeling so incredibly scared or angry or sad. But when I left my therapist's office feeling energized or feeling calm or even feeling hopeful. So the seeds for that were I think for my career were sown in my in my teens.
I see. Yeah. And I can see how that would open you up to even the possibility of being able to help others, because you were able to get that release and understanding, and then pass that on to others, because not many men would even know that existed. Like when I was a teenager, I didn't know that was a thing, right? Because I had never had that opportunity to even go see a therapist. So that's not something I would have thought about, how to get that release. And it wasn't until much later in my adulthood where I actually realized and being able to understood my own emotions.
Yeah,
and that's the reason why I kind of wanted to know like how you got into it, because usually when people are becoming therapists themselves, it's a reason why, because they have empathy, they care about other people, getting other people better. And I wanted to ask you that question to see how you got into this and how it like shaped you to become a therapist yourself.
Yeah. I appreciate you asking, because it really brings me back to some moments, in my,
Because even therapists have, trauma, unpacked
Mm.
trauma, they're not above normal people either. So, that's why it's important for other men to hear that.
Mhm.
It's true, because one therapist that I saw with last year, she was telling me, like, was trying to break the barrier of me speaking to her, and she said, just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean I don't have my own things that go on within me, and hearing everybody else's stories. I need a place to relieve that as well, and have my own therapist that I see. And so, because there's a lot of, most of the time you're hearing people's worst stories, not always their best, and that takes a lot to take on as well.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, most of the therapists that I know um are really doing the work themselves for their, for what they've struggled with. Yeah, no, I do. I do think, probably the best case scenario for a therapist, and there are lots of great therapists, but I think in terms of what a therapist has suffered, I think a therapist who's suffered and has succeeded in making good progress in their own journey with making peace with it, they're going to know firsthand something about how to help other people do that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely great. And this has been a great discussion. I wish we could keep going because there's just so much to unpack here. And I think you're giving a wealth of information and knowledge that's going to help men and control their emotions, regulate and process their emotions. And so to finish up here, what is one final thought that you want men to take away from it? If they don't hear it, nothing else, what is the one thing you want them to hear from this?
Well, thank you. What I'm most excited about these days is how we can accomplish a lot for our own emotional well-being by being willing to give our feelings and our wants a voice. And of course, there are unhealthy ways of giving our feelings and our wants a voice, but we can, if we can learn to take whatever feelings we're feeling and express them in a peaceful way, and to recognize what we want and to voice those wants in a way where we're not making demands, we're actually sharing with somebody, then that will do a lot for us. I would say that probably my favorite psychological superfruit, especially from men, is to be able to voice your feelings in a peaceful way and to voice your wants in a detached and non-demanding way. And I want to share a quote. Harold Pearson. This is a fantastic book. If either of you have read it or want to check it out, it's the Hero Within. She says, violence is caused in large part by the repression of assertiveness. And if you can imagine maybe a man who is stressed out by doing whatever he's doing out in the world, he's got some stress, and then he comes home and things are just not going the way that he wants, and he's feeling frustrated, right? And maybe he feels like exploding. He could do very well. He could do very well with managing his own state, and finding some peace by peacefully expressing how he's feeling and saying what he wants. So if he gets home and he sees that the kids have spilled food coloring for some reason all over the couch that was once tan. And, this is something I have experienced firsthand. He might just think, oh my God, it's like, but if he was to say, hey kids, I want you to know, children, I feel angry when you kids make this kind of mess. I want you kids to be more careful. Saying that is likely to be a step towards processing how he's feeling and then being able to function how he wants to function at home.
And I think that's perfect right there. Way to cap off this session, because that is great. Not only helps the individual themselves process those emotions and speak what they want in a very positive way, it also helps the kids in this example to understand how to process emotions and also in a positive way release those emotions instead of flipping out and like giving them a whipping or putting them time out or something like that. He did it very positively, and they understand, okay, how can I do this better next time so I don't make father feel angry? And so that's great. And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing this light with us. This was so great, and we definitely got to have you on again.
Well, I would love that. I would love that. And I really appreciate you guys. Duran, I really appreciate you for reaching out. I think we found each other in the men's mental health discussion group on Facebook, which is growing and may one day be a great resource. And Wayne, it's great to meet you, and congratulations for your 20 years of service.
Thank you. Same here.
Thank you both.
All right. Well, we're gonna just send me all the contact information, and then I'll post it in the description on YouTube. And this episode is gonna come out tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So make sure that to follow, tell other people about our channel. Just get the word out so we can help more and more men, potentially not to take their lives. But other than that, we thank you for coming on the show, and that's a wrap.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I look forward to speaking again soon.
Yeah.